President Joe Biden has got a classified docs scandal of his own. And it is importantly, this is like sort of the top note for the story, the exact same thing that Donald Trump did. If you're a moron and don't care about nuance and don't read literally one word beyond the headline on any of this. But we're gonna dive into all of that, as well as the response from Republicans and Donald Trump, opportunistic people, jackals really. Here are the details though. So the special counsel for President Biden confirmed, I believe it was late last night, that classified documents from his time as vice president had been discovered in a private office space and were turned over to the National Archives back in November. So the news is a little bit delayed by a couple of months. Here are a couple of notes. Take them, as you will. Joe Biden wasn't aware the classified documents were located in the office. Didn't become aware of them until his personal lawyers communicated their existence to the White House counsel's office. The special counsel, Richard Sauber, says the documents were discovered when the president's personal attorneys were packing files housed in a locked closet to prepare to vacate office space at the Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C. The president periodically used this space from mid-2017 until the start of the 2020 campaign. On the day of this discovery, November 2nd, the White House counsel's office notified the National Archives. The archives took possession of the materials the following morning. The discovery was made by the president's attorneys. The documents were not the subject of any previous request or inquiry by the archives. Since that discovery, the president's personal attorneys have cooperated with the archives and the Department of Justice in a process to ensure that any of the records from back when he was VP were back in the possession of the archives. And so, as I said, same thing, obviously, Donald Trump had taken documents. He'd been raided as a result of it. And now Joe Biden has documents. And so if the only thing you care about is absolving Donald Trump from the legal consequences for his actions, this is the same thing. But I have thought about this, and I believe I've identified a few subtle differences. So one, the docs weren't being requested. So the Biden team had no idea that the docs were missing to be released, whereas with Donald Trump, they had been specifically requesting over and over and over again to get these specific documents. The documents weren't taken to Biden's home. They were in an actual working space. Now, we can debate whether he should be moving those documents to spaces he was working at as a VP, but I don't think any Republican previous to this would have said that that was a problem. So they were actually being brought to a place that he was working at. It was while he was VP, not being taken out the door on his way out the door to be brought back to his personal place. There's no indication that he ever knew they were there, whereas Donald Trump was very proud of the documents he had stolen and had refused to give them back repeatedly when specifically requested to do so. They were locked up while they were in that VP office, not just in a desk or in an unlocked storage room, despite requests to take the security seriously of the documents. Also, they're the ones who found them and they immediately gave them back rather than fighting giving them back over and over. And President Biden is not to this day continuing to say that him having them is not a problem, that he can just take whatever he wants, which Donald Trump continues to say to this day. So a couple of small differences. What do you think, Yas?
Oh my God, the Trump supporters specifically who are attempting to draw these false equivalencies. I mean, they're going off of something so weak, just the fact that these two people were in possession of classified documents. But the similarities really kind of end right there. And it's like what you were saying, Joe Biden, first of all, didn't know that he had them. Then when he found out that he did have them, he turned them over without incident. And it's not like he was subpoenaed repeatedly to give them back and then in defiance said no. Mm-hmm. And then even after the raid at his personal residence where these documents were found, he still had more. It's not the same thing. We're talking about two very different situations.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, the number was also far lower, but that doesn't particularly matter to me. If it was only 3 docs and I thought that President Biden had specifically stolen them for when he wasn't VP anymore, then sure. Yeah. No, I would probably have a problem with that. But it doesn't appear to be the case here.
Doesn't appear to be the case.
Yeah. As soon as they discover that they have them, they gave them back. That is not what happened with Donald Trump.
That's such an important distinction, though. And that's the one distinction that people on the Republican side are going to continuously overlook or downplay, unfortunately.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.